Ryan Manion was forever changed in 2007 when her brother, Marine Corps First Lieutenant Travis Manion, died in combat in Iraq. Since then, she's dedicated her life to supporting our veterans, working with families of fallen soldiers, and having open conversations about grief and mental health. Please welcome President and founder of the Travis Manion Foundation, Ryan Manion. Ryan, welcome.
Thanks so much for having me.
Now, your family created this foundation in honor of your brother, Travis. Tell us how his life inspired your work.
You know, my brother was killed on April 29, 2007. He was on his second deployment in Iraq, serving as a first lieutenant in the Marine Corps. And honestly, Travis serving in the Marine Corps and deploying overseas, it was something that we knew there was a chance that something could happen, but really I looked at it as a needle in a haystack type situation. And so when he was killed, our family really had to take a step back and understand what we needed to do to move forward. And we wanted to do two things. We wanted to make sure that his legacy continued, but we wanted to make sure that we were doing it while serving others. And that was the formation of the Travis Manion Foundation.
Now, the Travis Manion Foundation works with veterans and families of fallen soldiers to get them involved in programs that both empower them and inspire future generations. Can you explain how the programs work?
Sure. We do a ton of different things at the Travis Manion Foundation, but at the end of the day, it's all about creating a community. And so one of our biggest initiatives is called Character Does Matter, where we actually train veterans and families of fallen service members to go out and teach character development to our next generation. We can think of no better way than our military community to talk to the next generation about what it means to be a servant leader in their own backyards and create communities where we are working each and every day to serve them, to come together. And we've got a community of about 150,000 members across the country.
Wow. Now, in your podcast, The Resilient Life, you speak to people from all walks of life about how to deal with everything from losing a family member to career struggles. Why was this an important subject for you to tackle?
It was important for me because I realized last year I released a book, The Knock at the Door. And for me, the knock at the door was literal. I had a knock at my door telling me that my brother was killed in Iraq. But for everyone, all of us are going to receive a knock at the door. We're all going to receive news that jars us, that changes the trajectory of our life. And so I wanted to start this podcast to have conversations with people who have overcome adversity, who have dealt with tragedy, not to hear that story so much, but to hear the story of how they moved on, how they pushed forward.
That resilience, which is in the title. And this pandemic has gone on much longer than any of us originally anticipated. After almost an entire year of social isolation, what advice do you have for anyone struggling with resiliency?
Well, I think the first thing I would say is that you have to be patient with yourself, and understand that life is a series of ebbs and flows. I did not realize when I released the book in November, just a few short months later, our entire country would receive a knock at the door. And so I'm always saying, you know, you've got to take time to better yourself. You cannot help those around you until you're properly taking care of yourself. So it's a time for us to be reflective on what our needs are, both mentally and physically. And I think once we can get that together, we can go out and help the broader community.
Yeah, going easy on yourself is so important. I once heard, treat yourself like you treat your best friend. But specifically, do you worry about the long-term effects that the pandemic may have on our mental health?
I am. I think, you know, we have a secondary effect that we were talking about when the pandemic hit, and we're seeing the effects of it now. You know, one of the things we found with the military community is that the biggest challenge they were facing when they were transitioning out of active duty is that they felt disconnected. They felt isolated from their communities. And now our entire country is feeling that way. We're feeling isolated. And so how do we do that? How do we bring that sense of community back when we're living in this virtual world? And I think it's about forming relationships, making sure you're staying connected. And for those that are strong enough to say, I'm going to go out and I'm going to check on my friends and my neighbors and my relatives, do that. But make sure, number one, that you are forming those relationships. And if you're feeling in any way, shape, or form that disconnection, that isolation, you have to stand up and seek help. It's the most important thing to destigmatize this idea that, listen, I've had really tough days over the last year. And I don't think there's anybody in this country that can't say they haven't. But you have to be okay to say, hey, I'm struggling right now.
Now, you have 3 kids at home. A big concern over the past year has been how kids will respond to the pandemic. How can we talk to our children about getting through these tough times?
You know, I've talked to my kids. I've got the broad range. I have a kindergartner, a 6-year-old, and then I have a freshman in high school. So, and then I have a 12-year-old in the mix of that. And all of them are dealing with different challenges. For my 15-year-old, you know, she's walking into a new high school and trying to build connections in a hybrid world, wearing masks, eating by themselves. And, you know, for her, I'm telling her, hey, this is just a small road in the greater path of life. It's going to end. You just got to be patient. First, my 6-year-old, you know, I'm trying to do everything and anything to make sure that his life remains as normal as possible. And I think, you know, it's about just giving honest amounts of love, but also being honest with your kids and saying, yeah, it's hard right now. Don't sugarcoat it, right? Making sure we're saying, yeah, this is hard right now, but we're going to get through it together.
Ryan, thank you so much for being here today. Thank you to your brother for his service. Thank you to your family for the ultimate sacrifice. And please head to our website for more information on the Travis Manion Foundation. Have a great day.
Thanks.